Black redemption is the necessary precursor to get us the type of power that we need in order to triumph over white supremacy. But what is black redemption? What do we mean by that? I'm Father Jabril, and you're watching Blacks with Power on Jawbread TV. Let's get to it. So when we talk about black redemption, or when I talk about black redemption, and in this community that we're forming, when we get the language of talk about black redemption, what we really mean, what we're talking about, is a theological construct, right? So the idea of redemption, just from Christian theology, from Christian thought, when applied to blackness, redemption, because in the Christian level, humanity as a whole had fallen from grace, had fallen away from the image of God in which it was created. You had fallen away from humanity as created in the image of God and had been lessened. When he said we fallen, it means being brought down lower, to a lower degree than what we were intended on being. And so Jesus Christ came and died to that we might be redeemed, that we might learn to live and embrace life in the fullness of the image of God in which we were created, right? So we go from being, in redemption, we go from being fallen humanity, living less than, or walking a life that is less than we were created to be, living in an image that is less than we were created to be, to after redemption, after Jesus Christ was died and rose for us, that we are now able to and empowered to walk as and live as humanity created in the image of God. So go from being, from our degraded state as fallen humanity to now living in humanity, in the image of God, as humanity in the image of God. And that's basic redemption, right? We can probably do another video to go in depth about redemption and how it happens and why it happens and so on and so forth. But from a general state, when we're talking about redemption, that's what we mean. So black redemption, right? What are we talking about when we put that black in front of it? Well, beyond just the fallen state of humanity that applies to all of us, right? White supremacy has specifically targeted and most targeted the black identity, right? Even those who are non-black, regardless of what nationality, what ethnicity, where you come from, it has been established by white society, by Western society, that the darker you are, the further away from grace you are, the further away you are from being humanity that is valued, humanity that's life really matters, humanity that is considered fully human, right? And so the darker you get wherever you are in the world, whatever your race is, quote unquote, whatever your nationality, your ethnicity, your tribe, whatever you are, it has been established that the closer you are to black, the worse you are. It is a stain, they say, right? It is a mark of degenerateness. And so the idea of black redemption is about rebuilding black identity to be in the image of God in which we were created, right? So white supremacy has set black people at a level that is lower than what God intended us to be, giving us a sense of self that is lower than what God created us to be, giving us a esteem of ourselves that is below the standard of the imago Dei, below the standard of the image of God in which we were created. And so, the proof of that is this. What I say a lot of times is that many of us, we will know that that is not true. Whatever the myth is about blackness, that you are lazy, that you are incapable of intellect, that that you're oversexed, that whatever the myth of blackness is, right? You and I will say, and I'm sure that you say that no, that's not true for you, right? And it's not, right? However, many of us, and you see this, even those of you who don't fall into this category can at least see this. Many of us are satisfied being the exception to the rule of black inferiority. So, according to white society, according to white supremacy, according to Western civilization, it is the rule that black people, the blacker you are, the dumber you are. The blacker you are, the more lazy you are. The blacker you are, the more prone you are to crime. The blacker you are, the more whatever negative stereotype that you can come up with, right? So that is the rule, that black people, by their quote unquote nature, are a certain way that is less than civilized, that is savage, right? And many of us become okay with being the exception to the rule. So, I have an education, I can form words, I can make complete sentences, I'm so articulate, and, I can allow myself to be comfortable with the fact that I am seen as the exception to the rule of black inferiority. So white folks will say, "Oh, he's so nice," like as if like this one right here, this Negro here is so good, and so I get a good job, and I have good stature, and I have a good income, and I have a good family, and I have a this, and I have a that, and me and my wife, and me and my children, and me, my, mine. These are words that do not rhyme. But we become little more than the exception to the rule, because white folks, even though they see us, and even though they see us on our job, and we may be their bosses and so on and so forth, and they see us and they say, well, Jabril is good, he's capable. But in their mind, it's still the rest of these Negroes, so when they see a Mike Brown getting shot for stealing a cigarello, or when they see, Tamir Rice being shot and killed for playing in a park, or, when they see Sandra Bland being choked out or not being choked, we don't know what really happened, but being killed in police custody, however the circumstances, or on and on and on. When they see those things, in their mind, they are still programmed to believe whatever the media, whatever society tells them about why it is justifiable that these black folks were killed, because in their mind, yes, they may have a black friend that they see as exceptional, but that black friend is the exception to the rule, and all these other Negroes deserve what they get. And so when we see, countries in Africa and countries in the Caribbean and whatnot being mistreated, they are okay with it because, Negroes deserve that sort of treatment. And they may have this black friend that they can point to that, well, you see, she knows how to do it. She knows how to exist in society. She's okay. I don't understand why the rest of these Negroes don't get it. And so we allow ourselves to be the exception to the rule of black inferiority. We want to strive for ourselves, right? We want to make life better for ourselves, for our family, but for some reason, and correct me if I'm wrong, put it in the comments, let me know that I'm wrong and tell me examples of how I'm wrong. But for some reason, en masse and in intellect, we in academia, we are not intent on disqualifying, disproving once and for all, changing the narrative on the myths about blackness, right? And presenting ourselves and re-elevating ourselves in the image of God in which we were created. So again, white supremacy, humanity has created us to be here. This is where the Lord created humanity to be, and white supremacy does this. It takes white folks and it puts white folks up here. It takes black folks and it puts black folks down here, right? And so, we're not, and I talk about the white side of things on racial heresy and on the other podcast that I do with Father Case Ramey, racialheresy.com. You can look at racial heresy videos, have a playlist on Jawbread TV here. But for the black perspective, because that's what we're dealing with in this episode, you know, white supremacy has taken us from where we're supposed to be, eye to eye, able to unify with white folks, and we're able to reconcile is the better term, but has pushed us down here, below the image of God, you know, below the standard of the image of God. And we've been okay that some of us are able to rise in white folks' eyes, but we as a people are still esteemed to be less than, and many of us are okay with that. Why is that? I want to understand why that is. I wish that you would fill in your comments and give me your thoughts on why it is that we seem to be okay with this substandard position, with being as a people, as a collective, not you as an individual, right? Because you as an individual may not see yourself as less than white folks, right? Most of you who watch Blacks with Power, most of you who listen to me, do not see yourself as less than. But why is it that we as a people are okay with being less than? Or if we're not okay, what do you think it takes for us to no longer be seen as less than white society? Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Because again, brothers and sisters, in order, if we're going to have any hope of reconciling, you know, yes, white folks will have to come down off their vaunted high horse, right? And we'll talk about that at another time. But we as a people have to rise back to that level that God created us to be at. We have to rise out of that level where white folks have put us as a people and come back to that level where God has intended us to be. And that is the only way, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is the only way that we will be able to ever have any hopes of becoming beloved community on earth as it is in heaven. And so a charge to keep we have, brothers and sisters, a God to glorify, a never dying soul to save and fit it for the sky. We have come a long way. Lord knows, we ain't where we used to be, but we know that we ain't where we need to be. So we ain't there yet. Let us march on till victory is won. Live with power.